computer. Mm-hmm.
You know, life wasn't created by accident. It was built to defy the odds, to push through the thickest of soil and sprout. Yeah, we know success is very crucial now. Not just for pride, but for survival. Let's maneuver out of these cold streets into the trees where we once found ourselves. Thrive. Concrete isolation, binding. It's perfect timing. Centuries grinding towards freedom, bringing new struggles every generation. Position toward a new life. Do we live off the earth or with it? Don't ask the colonists. Exploring everything around them, including our own souls. Owning nothing at all. This is the moment they fall. The vision is raw. You cannot take without giving. It's just the laws of nature. If you don't follow, there's no forgiving. So naturally, our ascension will overthrow their power trip and evolution. The First Nations will bring us back with symbiotic solutions. But first, need retribution to restore the balance between us. They think this house of cards could crook. We don't believe in revolution on the horizon. So tis the season as we embark on this escapade from the stars. Iron sharpens iron means your tribe is who you are. Grow from good soil. It won't be long till we can harvest. Long as we don't forget to tend the garden. Yeah, help me tend the garden. Help me tend the garden. Oh, help me tend the garden. It could feel as though.
All right. How's it going, everybody?
All right.
I like the background, Kira. That's nice.
This is Felicia did this logo. It was one of the last art things. She was so proud of it.
Love it.
Beautiful.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it turned out pretty cool. So that's the logo.
Love it.
All right. You looking cool there, Alex. What's going on with you there, buddy? You hitting the slopes? All right, everybody, welcome. We have our hosts, myself, but really we got Alex and Danny, the more knowledgeable host of the show. That's right, Danny. And Alex, take it away. When black and brown go green. Oh, you're on mute, bro. You're on mute.
Why do I keep going on mute? I'm not intentionally muting. That's weird. Screw that mute button. No compassion towards the mute button right now. Well, anyway, just wanted to get everybody introduced today. So we're just gonna go through that real quick as I prepare to head to the slopes, as we said. I'm also charging right now, as you can see, trying to recalibrate like a robot, but here we go. Maybe I'm more of a cyborg, really. Anyway, let's get started. How you doing, Big Rick?
I'm doing good, everybody. You know, I'm still handsome. I mean, I'm still looking good, feeling good. I mean, look at me. I mean, there's nothing else to say. My golf game's getting better. Yeah, that's it. Kind of boring.
It's about time your golf game got a bit better.
Yeah,
So,
dude, yeah.
we're happy. Yeah.
Oh, you broke up? Say that again, brother.
How you doing, Danny?
Danny.
Me, I'm just jealous of Big Rick. I want that energy. I wish I looked as good as Big Rick. I'm over here. I'm happy because I got my COVID vaccine today.
What?
First
Yay.
dose. So very, very excited. Yeah, grateful about that. And yeah, happy to be here with everybody. Happy to see your faces. Everybody looks amazing. And yeah, I'm gonna pass it on to Anita. How are you doing tonight?
Hi, Danny. Thanks for the what do they call it? Popcorn. Thank you. I'm doing well. I'm looking forward to, I'm actually not sure what today's agenda was supposed to be, but I invited Amy, who I'm going to popcorn to next, because we were trying to figure out like when we're going to, I guess on Sunday, we're going to talk about at some point about the Black and Brown Go Green. But we wanted to coordinate to figure out who's going to be on what team and what we're going to do when, just to sort it all out. But anyways, I'm really excited to have Amy here today too, who's a professor at LMU. And she and I have been working on this project for Felicia for some time. And let's all welcome Amy.
Yay.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry I was late. I was at a school meeting, which was about as fun as it sounds. So I'm really happy to be here. I had only just met Felicia and oh man, it's yeah, she was amazing, and I was really devastated to hear about her loss. So I just want to say she was beautiful, and but I also love the idea of keeping going what she started. So we're here. We had started to work with her, as Anita was saying, we'd start work with her on this plastics project. And I am here to do whatever I can to support this project and when Black and Brown Go Green. So I guess I'll popcorn over to Kira, who's next to me on the screen.
Well, thank you, Amy. You know, I was thinking we're going to do a compassionate arts art activity at the at Felicia's event on the 27th. Maybe we could do something on plastics too. So that's Kira's check-in. I'm always thinking ahead, you know, right? That's why Felicia and I made such a good team, because we were just like always thinking. My kids used to say, you're always thinking about art, you know. I'm just thinking about how to connect, you know. So, and that's why I'm really glad to see all of you here, and good to see you, Chris, Marisa, and everybody. And I'm going to, with that, throw it over to Chris.
Devastated to hear about her loss. So I just wanted to say,
all right, getting things for the Instagram. Hi, I'm an artist and recording engineer and singer-songwriter and compassionate arts ambassador. I've been a mentee of Faye since 2018, off and on a bit more than 2019 and now. This is my first time being in this space since the launch of the podcast, so I'm excited to see like the energy flow, and it was great to come into the call and meet like an abrupt silence and then an uproar of laughter and smiles and fun.
Glad to have you, Chris. Sandra, how you doing?
Hi, Alex. Hello, everyone. I'm doing great. Really excited to be here. I'm very grateful. I get quite excited when I see all your passion and everything you're doing. And I had some extra coffee. I'm 4 hours ahead of you guys, so got my second wind. And but yeah, starts at 11:30 for me. So, but it's great. It's definitely worth it. And I'm just quite happy to be here, and I feel the energy. I feel Faye here. I can just tell she's here, and I think this is going to be a lot of fun. So I want to support in any way I can, and I'm quite grateful.
Thank you for your words.
And I'll pass it over. Pardon? Sorry, Alice, did you say something?
Oh no, sorry. Yeah, I was just wasn't going.
Oh.
Marissa.
You're muted. There you go.
I'm Doing good. I was watching Charmed on Netflix, and it's really good and interesting.
That's good. Well, for tonight, first of all, I'm chilling. I'm good right now. Um, I was painting today. That got me in a good vibe and a good place. Trying to stay in shape, get back into working out regularly. So I feel I'm getting into a bit better of a mental space, which is really good. But tonight, I'm about to hit you with some reality here. We got some interesting things we're going to talk about related to the opioid pandemic, as well as some great tips and advice on dealing with stress and self-care through the pandemic with Sandra. So we're really happy to have you here. But we'll start out with some current events. So first of all, I wanted to just say we had some series of major storms come across the country. Colorado got hit by some historic, and Wyoming got hit by some historic snowfall. There was about 27 inches in Denver alone, which is a lot for a pretty much a spring storm. It was the record. Texas saw some baseball or golf ball size hail, something, but big hail and tornadoes, and Texas's power unsurprisingly went out in a lot of areas. Seems to be one of their specialties of 2021. And in other news, we had some apparent Grammy controversies with WAP that got some in the media outraged, others not so much, and kind of got drawn into our culture wars. And unfortunately, perhaps the most tragic news of the week was the massacre in Atlanta of 8 people, 6 Asian women at 3 Asian massage spas, salons. The shooter, young white male, as so often seems to be the case in these shootings, although the exact motive still remains unclear, as if it was hate related or if it was how much was rooted in this sex addiction he had. He did go to therapy for apparently 6 months for that. The sheriff there made a horrible justification for the shooting, saying that he was having a bad day. Most of us don't kill people when we're having a bad day. So it just kind of goes to show the leniency law enforcement, not all, but many at times have, depending on the color background of the perpetrator. And in other news, one other thing I'd like to briefly get into might be some stuff with how much energy Bitcoin consumes, because I learned that Bitcoin uses as much energy as the entire nation of Norway, which leads to some really important environmental questions. But to start, I'd like to just, speak on this shooting. I do have some controversial things that I will say about it, perhaps, that are in no way meant to take away from the Stop the Asian Hate movement, which I'm completely in support of. But I just want to know what everybody thinks about what happened and what they'd like to see done in response. Danny, what was your initial thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's very clear that there's a history behind these actions, when there's a massacre and it's people of color, it's it's kind of like a pattern of you always, yeah, it's always like a white gunman who like shoots up a place, and then it's like they had a bad day, and it's seen repetitively throughout history, both contemporary and going back. So it's like it's rooted in white supremacy and like the legislatures and the social status quo that this country is built on. So it's pretty evident to me, and it's really tragic.
Mhm. I agree. Now, if anybody wants to like speak before I get a bit controversial, just go ahead. But if you want me to like drop the controversy on y'all right now, I feel free and I'll do it. Rick?
I'll say a little bit. I found the way I found out about it was when I saw a clip of the cop saying that he was having a bad day.
Mhm. Ridiculous.
Never heard them say that about anybody of color. I'm not, that's crazy to even say that people have died. He was just having a bad day. I wonder if they took him to Burger King also, like the guy who shot up all those black people in the black church. Oh man, it's crazy. I don't know how, there's a lack of compassion when it comes to some people. I don't know how that cop got up there and did that. Of course the guy was suffering from some mental illness. Anybody who does anything like that has a mental illness. But a bad day?
Yeah.
What?
Come on.
Yeah, so that was crazy.
Yeah, I think it's good to be able to say that, like, oh, this shooter had mental illness, and then to talk seriously about mental illness, but
right.
Then you be able to do that about all such shooters, not just white shooters.
No. Black ones are thugs. Stop it. Now you stop that. They're thugs. They're animals. Damn you. Okay, go back to what you were saying.
I mean,
That's a really good point.
Thank you for getting the controversy started.
I think that's a great point when you said that about if they would just be trained to say this is a mental illness. I think if we just, one of the things that we need to do is to have them repeat the reality of what it is, and because that's how we'll change the funding, right? So the whole thing about defund the police or change the funding for the police is to make those kinds of programs stop that kind of thing before it happens.
People snack.
No, I feel that. And it's also important to still be like, okay, well, this is a mental illness, not, or like what one is it, how much is also just rooted in something like, it may be like a reaction to addiction or just narcissistic personality, because it's not really fair to also stigmatize mentally ill people by saying, oh, the shooter is mentally ill people do this. That's also not true.
There's
fair.
like different kinds of mentally ill.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
I mean, even racism. I mean, if you're so racist that it just navigates your whole life, then you have a mental illness.
Yeah. Obsessed.
Yeah.
An OCD racist.
Yeah.
But, so I'm about to drop the controversy right now. So trigger warning. I was jealous. Of this response to stop the Asian hate. And I was happy that it's happening, but as a Jewish person, I was jealous. I didn't feel jealous with Black Lives Matter, for example, because I recognized the institutional racism behind the treatment of Black people in America deserves a special highlight. But when it came to this, I felt that in response to a series of hate crimes and a potential mass murder that was a hate crime, definite mass murder, potentially hate crime, that I was kind of a bit hurt that the same thing didn't happen on a nationwide scale, where there were protests rising up after the Pittsburgh synagogue massacre, or the Newark Jewish massacre, or the stabbing in upstate New York, or even the murder of this gay Jewish teen, Blaze Bernstein, in Orange County here in California. Where with that one, for example, it bothered me that they were just highlighting over and over again the fact that it was an anti-gay crime, even though it was a Nazi who committed it, who bragged about killing birds with one stone, being killing a Jew and killing a gay person. So like, I felt very overlooked in that way, and I couldn't help but think some of it had to do with anti-Israeli sentiment, which I get. I'm very much opposed to a lot of what the Israeli government is doing, even though I think Israel has a right to exist. But I, want justice for the people of Palestine. Now, as a Jewish American, I don't feel that there's this, such a strong connection between me being a Jew and Israel. I don't feel that this whole discussion always has to go back to Israel when it comes to issues pertaining to Jewish Americans. And I don't think it should be used ever as a way of, distracting from violence that may happen to people in my community, or something of the like. Like, I had pennies thrown at me at times when I was younger. And I've known people who've been seriously hurt, or just scared. And there were those crimes, like I mentioned. Now, I see the Jewish and Asian experience in America is very similar. And I also see parallels between Israel's treatment of Palestinians and Chinese treatment of the Uyghur Muslims, who we plan on talking about more in a future episode. But people aren't going to make, and rightfully so, that distinction, that jump to being like, oh, we can't protest for Chinese Americans because the Chinese government is doing this. So while I was, I guess, overall happy to see people standing up against hatred towards Asians, I couldn't help but feel a little jealous that there was that response there when it wasn't for Jews. And like I said before, that wasn't something I felt with Black Lives Matter, because with something like that, the racism and institutionalized racism is so real against Black people in this country that I thought it deserved a special highlight. So that's just how I feel. But anybody feel free to open up, even attack me for it if you want.
I feel like there's a lot to unpack here, a lot to address. But I do want to say that it sounds like maybe you feel like Asian American people haven't been as oppressed, which is not the case. There was the Asian Exclusion Act, and there was a lot. Then there's the model minority myth, which is a myth, and I think maybe that's what is creating these feelings of well, they're not as oppressed, but that's really not the case. I see how it can't be compared to every ethnic group in America has its own separate struggles, and yeah, they're unique in themselves, but I think there was something I was getting of they're not really as oppressed, or there was something that I picked up there that I felt should be addressed.
Yeah, so I'll let it go back to everyone, but no, I see what you're saying. And by that, I mean not as oppressed as historically as Black Americans, as I think, and Native Americans, to highlight two groups in particular. I do think that there's been definitely institutionalized violence and racism towards Asian Americans, just looking at the 1940s with what happened with Japanese and the camps there. But, you know, at that same time, their Jewish Americans were being turned away and sent back to Germany by the US. And we didn't even go into the war to protect Jews. We went in the war because Japan attacked us, and America was perfectly fine with letting Germany do what they did until then. So I'm not meaning to dismiss any experience an Asian American may have. I'm just trying to say how I feel that, like, when these hate crimes have been happening against Asians, it would have been, I can't help but feel like it would have been nice to see some of the same response from Americans as a whole towards what happened in Pittsburgh or near San Diego, that Poway, for example, or Newark. But I don't want to dismiss anything any Asian American has gone through.
When did those things happen in, you said Philadelphia or in Newark or New Jersey? When did that happen?
Yeah, so in Newark, it happened in 2019, and 2018 or so in Pittsburgh, and 2019 in near San Diego. And then there were a series of like synagogues being burned down around New York, and just like a game where you go up and you punch a Jewish person too. So like I see what's like those attacks on Asian Americans. I feel very like empathetic because I've seen that happen a lot recently towards Jewish peoples. There's been record levels of anti-Semitism brought on by a lot of the hate towards, just even hate towards Muslims, you know, perpetrated by certain political figures, or hate towards Hispanics and immigrants. Like, it's like all that hate fuels the fire and makes all types of hatred get exposed. I just kind of wish that there was that little bit of a bit more acknowledgement that there's still a lot of anti-Semitic violence in this country.
Go ahead, Chris.
Well, I talked to Latoya. In all transparency, I'm gonna touch on the Asian hate crime and anti-Semitism really quick. Where can I begin? I want to make sure as young representatives of this movement that we practice like a yes and. I want to make sure that we acknowledge all cries for help as we can. And the same sentiment when we were marching in the street for Black Lives Matter is because I mean that house has not stopped burning, by the way. Let's just point that out. But it right now, today, it's not about Black Lives Matter. It's about Asian Lives Matter. So I want to make sure that we're making sure that we're leaving the space to spread that compassionism, and when we're bringing in systematic issues with race like anti-Semitism, it's treated as a yes and because we may not have that intention of taking away space from people that are in pain right now because we've experienced pain in the past or for however many years. But at the same time, the reach of this podcast is endless. And I want to make sure that first and foremost, I'm protecting my fellow ambassador, Alex, and making sure we are showing love and compassion and kindness and sending the largest hugs, which in reality is nothing because they need a lot more than that right now. Our Asian brothers and sisters need a lot more than a warm hug. That said, addressing issues like Asian hate crime, anti-Semitism, and hate crimes against all people of color, that's something that if we have an issue with representation or the lack of space thereof, that's us. We hold a part of that flame that comes from like this oasis of servitude, and to speak in a metaphor. Anyway, I want to make sure I'm not being redundant. Big Rick.
All right. So I just figured out how to raise my hand on Zoom. I applaud myself. Let me lower it now. The reason why I asked you, Alex, about when those things happen, you said 2019, 2018. I'm thinking like I know Black Lives Matter have been around for a while, but it seems like with George Floyd, the whole hashtag thing kind of started. So I'm thinking as coronavirus kicked in and the George Floyd thing kicked in, now it's kind of like a hashtag Black Lives Matter, whatever, and then stop Asian crime. Do you think maybe that would have happened if it was after 2020? You know what I mean? It wasn't like a hashtag thing around that time, but now it's like, hey, stop messing with this person. It's more highlighted. I don't know. Am I off, or do you think it could be something like that? That it's a sign of the times that people are jumping on to the stop this kind of hate, stop that kind of hate, because it's like 2000. It started like around March of last year with this whole thing with hashtags and things like that. Yeah.
That's a great question. Because I mean, I was actually thinking about that today. I'm not sure. It may have taken off more. I do know that some anti-Semitic crimes have gone under the radar this year because as a result of coronavirus, hate crimes against Asians and Jews in particular rose because they were both being blamed for starting the virus as sort of some conspiracy. So I know that hate crimes against Jewish people also rose this year. But I don't get me wrong, like I kind of wanted Jewish people to have that moment because I've been uncomfortable a lot of times lately, but I'm happy Asian Americans are getting their moment. And I think it's also important that when considering that Asian Americans, for example, aren't just going to be getting attacked by white Americans in the street. It's going to be Hispanic Americans, Black Americans, etc., who also are playing a role in prejudice towards Asian people. And I think everybody needs to reflect on their hatreds. But Sandra, what were you wanted to say something?
Oh, I was just going to speak to, you just mentioned about, is there a correlation what's going on, that we're seeing a lot more? Well, maybe it's not that it hasn't been happening, but perhaps there's more awareness lately in the past year. But my heart goes out to everybody that, like it's all wrong. Anti-Semitism, anything against any ethnicity. I think the hate has been heightened a bit with the pressure also with COVID and all that. And I think that there's a correlation there, right? So people, as people are also, and I'm not justifying any, please know this, that I'm speaking of two different things, Alex. So, but when you mentioned there's no excuse, right? What happened? And I think it's absolutely horrible. I'm just speaking to, I think that the hatred is growing, right? And it's, which is wrong, and just all the pressure and people struggling through COVID and whatnot, I think it's adding to the problem, right? And well, hate is a form of fear, and it's taught. And that's why we're here, teaching compassion. And thank you for bringing that up, and everybody, just to raise awareness that there's so much going on that we need to, because most people don't know. And I'm hearing more from you as well. But it's all being aware and showing compassion and change. And this is how it happens. But
Yeah.
I think COVID just has made it also, seems to escalate a lot more as well, just what's going on. And I could be wrong, but
No,
I think there's a lot of pressure there.
you're right, Sandra. You're echoing something I
And
said.
it's wrong. It's existed forever, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. No, absolutely. You echoed something that I mentioned months ago, or a month ago on our stream. I was talking about how we're focused on COVID when people are dying from other stuff. And there's, people aren't able to pay their rent, their mortgage, their losing their business, their kids aren't in school, they're at their wits' end. There's so much other stuff going on. And that's why, this is great that we're doing this, because we can, talk about mental health and everything, because people are going through more than just COVID. That was just a trigger.
That's what I mean. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Rick. That's actually what I'm getting at as well. So thank you for articulating that for me. It's a trigger because it's been happening for centuries, and how can somebody and people are getting mad at protesting and that? Well, how can somebody feel safe when they can't pay their rent and they're discriminated and all this? So it's a buildup, and this is just, I think it just kind of, COVID kind of brought it also to another head. So but what I mean is it's always been there, but exactly what you're saying, Rick. Like it's all, it's very sad, and what we need to do is get the support programs out there so that people feel heard and treated properly, and it happens everywhere. It's wrong.
Yeah, and you're right. I agree with you. We need to make, we just need to stop hate altogether, and hashtags for my Jewish brothers and sisters. We definitely need to do that
together for all of us.
Yeah. I mean, I have a Jewish family up north. I mean, my mentor, the Slates, Jeremy Slate, they he got me into the acting, and they were my other family, Yeah. So
Well, this would be a really good time to talk about what Compassionate Arts is doing on Saturday. Because so we, Compassionate Arts in Action, have been collaborating with the Compassionate San Diego group for almost a year now. And we've done 6 months with youth. Alex was part of it. Danny was part of it. Youth ambassadors. And because the youth ambassadors told us that mental health was a big issue, and Felicia, it was really important to her. for us to do that. So I want to invite all of you and anyone that's hearing this to contact us, and they can be on the Zoom on Saturday morning from 11 to 12. We're having Danny is going to be doing, maybe you want to talk about it, Danny, is going to be working with Lisa Parsons, who's a certified stress consultant and nurse practitioner. And what is it? Is it called the tips for stress reduction? What's your discussion called, Danny?
I don't know what the title is actually.
Anyway, it's about stress. And also what's really tying into what we're talking about tonight is most of the youth ambassadors on the San Diego Compassionate team are Asian. And I tried to talk to them about the fact that people were blaming anyone that looked Asian with the Chinese, guilt thing about the virus, and it didn't make sense. And it was a hard conversation because they don't, most of them are pretty shy. They don't really, didn't you find that to be the case, Danny? They don't, it takes them some time to be able to talk about it. And it wasn't until 6 months later that I actually started hearing them realizing, like when they would go to school and they would eat food that was different, the kids would tease them and things like that. They're just starting to see, or even to acknowledge how they've been, maybe treated differently. And now I don't know what they think about, what you were talking about, Alex. I mean, do you talk to any of them since presentation?
Not those, not them specifically, but I've talked with some of my Asian friends. I just think it's so important too to be able to distinguish between ethnic, racial groups and governments. It's okay to be upset with how China hid information at the start of COVID. It's not okay to blame every Chinese or Asian person you see. So I'll just leave it at that. I do want to get to our new topic really briefly before we move over to our presentation. So I know you knew some about this, Rick, because we were talking about earlier, so I thought maybe you could say it. But first of all, Bitcoin, just Tesla's investment in Bitcoin a lot is equal to 1.8 million cars in terms of the carbon emissions. And then there's this a lot on decarbonizing Bitcoin, law and policy changes for reducing the energy consumption of specifically the blockchain technologies, which use up so much energy. Overall, Bitcoin uses up the amount of energy as the entire nation of Norway. And that's just Bitcoin, what you put your money into. So what do you know about that, Rick?
Yeah, so Bitcoin is a first generation cryptocurrency. This is all new. I know a lot of people they don't really want to invest in cryptocurrencies. They don't really understand it. So people are kind of staying away from it right now. And it's really volatile for people to invest in. But for people to spend money using Bitcoin, like Alex said, it takes a lot of energy. But there's other generational coins, altcoins they call them, like XRP. XRP uses a fraction. It's a third generation coin. It uses a fraction of the energy that Bitcoin is. Right now, it's 47 cents a coin, and Bitcoin's like $53,000. It's the standard, but just like there was MySpace and then there was Facebook. It's going to be, I believe that it's going to be out with the old, in with the new. XRP is a green cryptocurrency. Right now, they are in court with the SEC. The SEC is saying that they are a security, which means they are not being able, they are being sold not as a currency, but as a security. So they're in court right now. Hopefully XRP wins their court case with the SEC because it's the first green the first green cryptocurrency that uses a fraction of what Bitcoin does. But on the news, they're talking about Bitcoin and Ethereum. They're only talking about 2 cryptos, but there's like 800 cryptocurrencies out there, and some won't all make it. But XRP is one of those that's gonna, do really well. There's also Cardano that they use a fraction of the energy that Bitcoin does. So I'm not sure how long Bitcoin is going to be number one. Everybody keeps saying invest in Bitcoin, but if I were you all, I would look into XRP, Cardano, these 3rd generation coins that are actually green coins. They are actually environmentally sound coins. So, if you guys are looking into that, you're absolutely right, Alex, with Bitcoin. It's just not worth it. I don't have the words, but it's just not gonna last because of
I was like, wow, it's not something of too, like if you were to use it, you're not thinking, ooh, sending this to the blockchain and I'm polluting the world and like killing off the elephants or something. That's not like where your mind will jump, but or messing up the sea.
Yeah, it's an environmentally, it's damaging. I mean, Bitcoin, if that's the way we're going, and also Bitcoin takes a longer time. It takes way more energy, and it takes a longer time to spend Bitcoin or to send it to like Russia. But XRP, you can send XRP in like 3 seconds. Like that's what it is. It's a coin that's a green coin, a digital currency that you can send immediately. But all the other countries, they're okay with XRP. They don't see it as a security. They see it as a cryptocurrency. But XRP in America, of course, it's having problems. Maybe because the SEC wants to start their own coin. And so they're giving XRP a hard time. But if XRP gets through their court case this year, we could be seeing one of the first green digital currencies to take off, something that we can actually use and has great utility and low energy, not like Bitcoin, which is crazy.
That would be good.
Yeah.
Honestly, people who talk about Bitcoin all the time and how they're investing kind of annoy me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, okay, I get it. You do Bitcoin, and they're like, oh, I'm gonna be so rich. It's like, you know what? I hope it tanks. I hope you go broke.
Look, if you didn't get in it, if you don't have Elon Musk money and you're buying like $1,000 worth of Bitcoin and it's 53,000 right now, if it goes up to 150, so what? You have $3,000. You're not going to get rich.
Yeah. Well, with compassion, I hope they don't get rich.
With compassion. All right.
So, anyway, now from this very interesting topic to one of my favorite things in the world, drugs, we're moving on to something that's not so great, the opiate epidemic. So anyway, this is a very serious issue. I actually have had some training regarding this with Narcan training, administering, I'm licensed, if you will, to administer Narcan to someone once they have overdosed or overdosing. I haven't had the opportunity to do it. I did see one guy who actually I kind of became sort of friendly with, who appeared to be, I became friends with him. My guy Shorty, he seemed to be overdosing one time on heroin or something, but I didn't have my Narcan on me. He was fine, and he mainly just smokes crack and drinks beer anyway. I actually had a beer with him one time while he was smoking crack in my stairway. But anyway, as crazy as that might sound, it kind of highlights how real it is that people who we may even love and care about are really falling into very serious drug issues. So just some facts on the opiate epidemic to start. So in 2018, there was an average of 41 people that died each day in the US from overdoses involving prescription opiates, totaling nearly 15,000. And that's just from the prescriptions, big pharma. And while prescription opiates were involved in 32% of all the opiate deaths in 2018, there was a 13.5% decrease in prescriptions opiate involved deaths from 2017 to 2018. There was also 14,000 plus substance abuse fatalities in the US. That's just a portion of overall drug deaths in the US though. Next, we'll see a little graphic that shows the 3 waves of the rise in opiate overdose deaths. You have different types of opiates. You got your commonly prescribed ones, and this has ravaged a lot of communities, urban and rural, particularly in states like West Virginia. People come in, they're like, they get injured on the job working in the mines or something, their backs hurt. They start taking opiates as prescribed, but the doctors overprescribe the opiates and they end up getting hooked. It's why there's, so much, distrust in issues right now with big pharma, at least a big part of it. It's just, they want to keep pushing those drugs onto you, keep pushing it because it makes them money. And the people who getting affected and addicted to it, that's kind of a byproduct of it, unfortunately. That also leads to issues with heroin overdoses. And heroin's just, everybody knows heroin. People usually inject it. You could also smoke it. There's other ways to do heroin too, but it's most commonly injected. And heroin, in my experience, could be pretty cheap. Black tar heroin coming from Mexico, could get it for $5-10. It's not like it's something very expensive, which makes it, very easy for someone to support their addictive habits. I even saw someone, unfortunately, as I was kind of in a reporter mode one time for my thesis, and I went with someone on a heroin deal. A woman was like craving heroin. She needed it and she couldn't just immediately get off it, even though her friend wanted her off of it. It's not something you could so simply just get off in an instant. Sometimes with these drugs, just doing complete cold turkey, just stopping right away is also deadly. So that's with heroin. And then recently, there's other synthetic opiates that have taken over the market. Tramadol, fentanyl is a really big one. And fentanyl in many ways is like a really bad heroin, which if anybody knows how bad heroin is, for it to be a worse heroin and deadlier, a lot of the worst heroin overdoses are laced with fentanyl, is very scary. And that could just, you scratch some off the plexiglass, you can make fentanyl with that. I don't know why I'm giving y'all lessons on how to make it. I also know how to make crack, but there's that. So moving on to the next. Some of the big factors when we're looking at COVID-19 and the rise of overdoses and drug addiction is people losing their jobs, limited social and family interactions. And the pandemic in itself is really depressing and anxiety provoking. I've really been there, and it's tough for me. And in a lot of ways, this is enough to cause relapses or push people to initiate drug use. The pandemic, unfortunately, took away a lot of the intention of this pandemic from the media, and it wasn't just as focused on, unfortunately, and led to even more overdoses. Legislators and public health agencies, really are responsible in ways to try and find ways to tackle the opioid crisis. And just to get really personal, I've known people who've drug addiction, but there's a lot of other addictions and addictive behavior. Now, obviously, something like sex addiction, like you saw with that shooter in Georgia, isn't any excuse, any way to be like, oh, he's having a bad day and to go shoot people. But there are those types of addictions, sex addiction, porn addiction, and many other things also are likely to get worse with the increased isolation. And unfortunately, it's a mental health crisis emerging that's kind of gotten away from people. So when we look at like some other things, like with the statistics of the result of COVID-19 on drug overdoses, you're going to see a big rise. Next slide, please. So there were over 81,000 drug overdose deaths in the US in the 12-month period ending in May 2020, which is higher than ever recorded in 12 months by the CDC. The overdose deaths seem to be increasing once again after they started falling for a bit in like around 2018. But in 2019, early 2020, they were increasing, but it seems the pandemic increased them even more. So it's likely that, you know, this new 12-month calendar year, once we get to May, will be even worse. And these are a lot of the hidden struggles that are taking place in the US. Actually, just to speak a little more on that, my community I worked in the Bronx, you know, people were saying heroin's a white problem. And, you know, there are a lot of problems in like white communities with heroin, but the opiate epidemic has really struck the Bronx and other areas really hard too. And that might not be getting as much attention, but you're going to see people like, you know, in really desperate situations looking to just get one more high and then another high after that in the South Bronx and some of the, you know, most like historically impoverished and systematically targeted areas of the country. So there's policy solutions. What could we really do to get this pandemic, the opioid pandemic, under control? There's this thing called an X waiver. It's a requirement that physicians have a special waiver from the Federal Drug Administration, the FDA, in order to legally prescribe buprenorphine, which is a medication used to treat opioid use disorder. And that waiver could probably go a long way to like helping people who are dealing with it. We need to take financial resources from legal settlements against opioids, like in big pharma, manufacturers, etc., and from stimulus spending and invest in our mental health infrastructure. It's good to also tackle the mental health issues before people become addicted, because then they are less likely to get addicted in the first place. People don't just wake up and say, I want to be an addict. There's a lot of real and difficult life circumstances that lead people there. And yes, some people's brains are more likely than others, their genetic makeup, to suffer from addiction. But we just want to live in a society where more people feel they have resources to access and they feel good about their lives and their social lives and everything. We need to really look into how people are feeling, the mental health crises in the country, to prevent people from falling down into addiction. And just like I said, the resources, like with counseling services before addiction, during, and after addiction are all very important. Just like, you know, an AA meeting for someone who's suffering from alcoholism, having a community to support you is crucial. And we should help healthcare organizations provide easy access to mental health care. It's way more difficult often for a poor person to see a therapist because they can't afford it with their insurance if they have it. And there's also big barriers that, you know, people of color may feel in towards being comfortable speaking with a therapist who may not understand and get their background and where they're coming from. And that representation, I think, amongst you know, psychologists to patients would also be really helpful. So what can you do? Just learn about the risk of opioids. They're not good. There's better ways to self-medicate too when you're in pain. Help people struggling with opioid use disorder to find the right care and treatment. And learn more about CDC's overdose surveillance and prevention efforts in your community. I'd also say don't stigmatize people who are hurting. People always want to stigmatize people with addiction. It's important not to. That will just further the cycle. And if you're able to like get something like a Narcan training so you could act if you see someone overdose, that's really important. And like, Narcan, you just do a little shoot twice up the nose.
Can I add a little insert in here? So on my screen is the a book from When the Bow Breaks: Pregnancy and the Legacy of Addiction, which is a book I did in 1993, and it traveled. The March of Dimes took it to 19 state capitals in Washington, at Congress and Senate buildings, and it was an art project that included all the things. The policy. This is really good that you've got the policy and the solutions and what you can do. But I think since this is Black and Brown Go Green and we're under Compassionate Arts, bringing in the arts is a way for people to not feel stigmatized, to feel more open, to listen more, and be compassionate. And then they can, because what we found the reason that the March of Dimes took an art project and had its exhibition in so many state capitals, and the book too was published, the reason it worked and influenced legislation is because it opened hearts. And that and what you're saying is really important for people to hear, but it's hard for them to hear it. And sometimes that's what the bridge we have with Compassionate Arts. That's why we can make that bridge, and so I just want to encourage anybody that's listening to think about how the stories through art, so you combine the facts, the statistics, the art with stories, and then you have a really strong tool.
I actually have something that, maybe I could share too, if maybe somebody gets up a beat or something, but I wrote a little rap about my own struggles with, when I was drinking a little too much. And I think that music could really help sometimes. But before I do that, which I'll do because I'm in a sharing mood, just want to say there are other risk factors for like overdose and for addiction, adolescence for addiction, and then like overdose, we could look into it a lot, respiratory issues, psychiatric instability, history of drug overdose, among other things. And then risk factors for addiction, like, duration longer than 3 months, and the certain amount of doses you may take really can impact the risk for addiction and overdose. But yeah, I did write a song myself about like with alcohol. It was like very personal to me. So kind of went like this. Was it 40 off the back? I don't know how to act. I sip yak in the stairway with shorty smoking crack. Pause. Now what the bleep is that? The Henny too good and this bubbly got me meta. I'll ignore what you smoking paper bag on the train. Cause die with a bang. Be an addict forever. Trying to get clean. Be an addict forever. You know what I mean. Sometime my mind be trying to tell me stop. Fireworks hit different when you almost got shot. Car caught in traffic, that's when I duck. The bullet missed the window, but adrenaline is tenfold. I swear I need a drink, I'm deep and feeling pitiful. Call up the homies, probably smoke on some residuals. Probably drink away my liver, 20 shots till I die. Probably reminisce in the moment, run to the deli for a Dello. Take my jack like a man. Don't need shots with no jello. Hello, but the jaundice got me yellow. I could have a mansion in the Hamptons and turn the whole hood ghetto. 40 off the back, I don't know how to act. I sip yak in the stairway with shorty smoking crack. Pause. Nah, what the bleep is that? This Henny too good and this bubbly got me better. I'll ignore smoking paper bag on the train, cause a scene on the floor, die with a bang, be an addict forever, trying to get clean, be an addict forever, you know what I mean. I'm straight, good homie, it's been a rough day. I had hoops then to keep my mind away. I figure I either shoot shots, get shot, or take shots. I chose the latter even when my bladder told me stop. Pokey was a real one, got caught with his equipment, changed his life to get up out that system. After Lakita got dropped, he swore he changed, but they named a Lord for that device when it was a disciple in his gang. It's all the same. In one swoop, he back in prison. All the efforts he made and accrued all that wisdom vanishes like progress and builds my superstitions. And when go on back with my corona attached, my booze probably mutates and makes me relapse, but it helps me relax. I want to get rich, but money trouble attracts. The liquid liquidates my assets and I spend all my cash. Damn, I feel I'm becoming my grandpa. I'm madder than Max. So that was just a little something I wrote that kind of dealt with like how I perceived my issues with alcohol at the time.
Wow.
Drank in over a year. So
That is very powerful. Thank you for sharing that. Wow.
That was fire, brother. Fire.
You know,
Thank
I
Yeah.
love your song on that post, that's Felicia's post about overcoming depression. This is a story or a quote from John Lennon. When you're drowning, you don't say, "Can anyone please help me? Please help me." You say, "Help." So you know, it's like you're not always polite when you need help, you know, and so I think that's the role of the artist, and I really appreciate all your talents, Alex, I mean, because you have so many to bring to this conversation. And in my own family, opioids. I have a cousin in Pennsylvania who had many surgeries on his knees and had a lot of pain, and that's what happened to him. And it really messed up the family for a long time. And I'm hoping that they'll eventually mend it. I don't know, but it is devastating families, and so that's where we as compassionate artists and people that care about making the world better, that's where we have a platform or at least a responsibility, I feel like, to make a difference, you know, to be able to share those stories in a way that people feel heard or feel, you know. And sometimes it's a way just to wake up the legislators. I mean, there have been times when I have heard policymakers say they didn't even realize something was as bad as it is because they don't, their heart's not connected. It's always, you know, it's just one thing in the multiple of things that are affecting us nowadays, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I was fortunate because I caught mine before it became too much of a problem. But even then, it was still a problem because probably not the best thing to take 25 shots in a night and get kicked out of a club. It's probably not the best thing. But I've done that. But like also being that I've had my own follies, if you will, and mishaps, it also shows that, like, you know, who am I to judge someone? And I think if someone's ever fallen into anything like that, it becomes much more clear it's not something you should just be judging people for. And I also think art's a great way to, you know, get away and separate some of that stigma because it's so expressionate and it's so personal that it gives people a different perspective.
Well, and it's even, I mean, it's art's just many layers, and that's one of the things that I've worked my entire life to get people to understand. You know, first, when Fran and I did When the Bough Breaks, Pregnancy and the Legacy of Addiction, we got censored when we were in the Capitol in Sacramento. They censored half the show. When they did that, they took all the compassion out of the show. And the reason was there there was a Republican who wanted to treat drug and alcohol addiction as a crime and throw women in jail. And the Democratic person running for governor wanted to treat it as a health issue, which is what the American Health Department, wow, I forget what it was. Anyways, the main legislative body for health issues wanted to keep it as a health because women will run away. And so there was no way of solving it with that. And so by taking all the compassion out, we had to call in the ACLU. It was a big deal and very dramatic. And then we won the case, and they left the show. They put the show up and they took it down the day after we left.
Mhm. Yeah.
And they made a law that you can no longer show political art in the Capitol.
Yeah.
And this is a,
It's hard.
it's we're, we just have to keep going, doing the best we can is my usual phrase you've all heard me say.
Sandra?
Thank you, Kira, for that, and Alex. I think the whole panel here, just raising awareness and trying to get rid of the stigma. That's just an illness, and the more we talk about it and the more we all have our stuff, there's nothing, it's no different than anything else. It just affects us differently. And so, Alex, your song was fantastic, by the way, and your book, Kira. All of it. I just feel so blessed to be here because I think this is such an important issue that people, that it doesn't discriminate. It doesn't matter how smart you are, what you do, what you look like, whatever, right? It's an illness that can affect us all. And the more we talk about it and raise awareness and support, the more people will get support that need it. And we help each other.
Yeah, it's something because when I was writing that song, I wanted to be very truthful to me. So I made sure that basically every line was something that either I thought internally that happened. So, when I'm saying in the stairway with Shorty smoking crack, right? Like I said, that was something that happened. And I want him to be clean, but I don't hate him. I don't want to just throw him away as someone because of that. He's someone that wanted to be trustworthy, even if he couldn't always because of his addiction. He's someone that he was grateful for me when I got a new phone. I gave him my old phone because he needed a phone. And he's someone that I actually consider a friend, even though he was struggling with that. And it's not like he ever was like, yo, smoke crack with me. Yo, do this with me. He was, maybe he wanted to have a beer with me or something, maybe, but that was it. Something regular. But he wasn't going to be forcing me, making me uncomfortable. That's not how he was. He wasn't even proud of his addiction. And that was clear, but he was still trying to enjoy his life and at the end of the night be able to sleep under a roof. So just shedding that humanity on people going through that, I think is and how's the situation in Canada?
Oh, it's bad. And we're very lucky for our health care. It is public, but mental health, it's a struggle. They're working on improving it. But as far as services being available, people can wait. If you don't have the money to pay privately to see somebody, then the wait times are really long, and there's not much support. That's a big reason why I do a lot of what I do. There is not much support, and they're trying to really work on that, especially since COVID, because everyone's stress levels. So anybody that's been even struggling with whatever it is, right? So addiction, or if there's domestic violence or anything, as people's lives become more stressful, then all of these underlying conditions, they're triggers, right? So but Canada, we're very blessed, again, because we do have a public healthcare system, thank goodness. But mental health, there's a lot of room for improvement, and especially with the opioid crisis, it's everywhere. So it doesn't matter where you live, we're all affected by it. You know, I don't know one, you know, if there's a family that's not affected by it, it's very rare. We all, you know, so I thank you, Alex, especially speaking, because like all of us, and we all go through stuff, and a lot of us like we all have addictions, whatever it is, whether it's our phone, whether it's shopping, whether it's alcohol, whether it's drugs, whether it's, you know, so we all have things. And I think the more we're talking about it, the more people will feel like, okay, it's okay for me to talk about it, because that's what's, I think, a big issue, right? It shouldn't be an issue. And a lot of people, and then they just hide, and it makes them sicker. So I think this is really important. And I loved your song, and I you know, whatever you share, right, it's very valuable to all of us. Everybody brings so much to the table here, but it's a big issue in Canada, everywhere as well. So
yeah, so could you actually transition into your topic? I think we're all really excited.
Okay. Well, our topic, I guess, when we're talking addiction or anything, just as all of us are coping with increased stress and whatnot, one thing that can really help us with coping from any illness is self-care, and also from COVID as well. So I was just going to touch on self-care, and let's see if I can bring it up here. Bear with me. There we go. Is it coming up? So, and of course I don't have it. I thought I had it queued here. So I just wanted to, I guess, since we're talking about addiction, but any illness that we go through or that we are suffering from, a lot of times I think we just, you know, so I called this Love Yourself First, It's Okay. Because I think so many of us, we're either, you know, we're too busy, or we're too selfless. And self-care is so important for everything in our lives, especially if we're coping with addiction or stress or anxiety or anything. Just to be able to be ourselves, self-care plays such a role. And why do we need to practice it? Well, one thing is, if we're not good to ourselves, we're not able to, we have nothing to give to other people. So we have to keep our cup full. And I think a lot of people, you know, whether we just, life is busy, life is hectic, you know, with technology, we're on 24/7. And so you know, we're constantly busy. And also people feel selfish to put themselves first. So, but what happens when we don't do that, eventually with stress, trauma, or, you know, if you have anything going on, and if you're not getting any healing or any relief, and you're going through a lot of different things in life, you know, we're all a glass, and eventually we all have a threshold, and something has to give. And so it gives in different ways. So some people, you know, it might be, it could be any type of illness, or it could be, you know, some type of disconnection, but we have to really keep our cup full. And this is just a painting that that I did. And it's about basically, you know, again, we can't love anybody or be able to be full ourselves or really enjoy our lives if we don't put ourselves first. And it's a really core thing with, I think most of us struggle with. We feel bad, but it's important, it's essential. And the more we put ourselves first, not in a selfish way, but the more we're able to tune into alignment, like we all deserve to live a great life. And we all deserve to live a life in color. Again, just another thing, just about alignment. So I'm going to go into alignment is basically when we feel really great and, you know, the best essence of ourselves. And, you know, when you all are artists and have your crafts, and when you're doing things and Kira's flowing and she's into her art and she's in alignment. And when we're in alignment, we feel good, we feel happy, we feel safe, we feel, you know, joy and pleasure and autonomy and fun. And negative emotion pinches that off. And when we don't practice self-care, you know, when we get busy, the negative emotion, the stress. So negative emotion can be anything. It can be stress. Like stress is more like I would say an interference, but negative emotion, if we're feeling angry or we have some bitterness or we're hard on ourselves or anything like that, it pinches off the essence of who we are. And so this painting, it's just a kind of an expression of our hearts. And, you know, if somebody's been through a lot of pain, or everybody suffers for different reasons, but it might be a lot of pain, it might be trauma, it might be, you know, there's some bitterness and anger, any negative emotion, especially towards ourselves, unforgiveness towards ourselves. We're pinching off the best part of us. And so this is what that painting is. And it's just reminding us it's okay to feel good. It's okay to, you know, it's okay to feel too. If you have anger, get it out, but don't keep it in. And, you know, when we look at even just different illnesses and stuff, a lot of it is buildups that we keep inside. You know, we talk about self-care, and I'm not really going to go into, yes, take a bath, take a shower, all that kind of stuff. That's everywhere. It's really important. When you look after yourself, sometimes just brushing your teeth, you feel better, right? But also energy hygiene. Like if we can look after our energy and our feelings and our emotions, that helps us as well. And I bring up unforgiveness because this is a big one that I find we all suffer from. And a lot of times it's ourselves that we're hard on, and that can build up. And a lot of people I work with, and you know, I'm speaking for myself and everybody, we all go through things. And I think there's this misconception. I'm bringing up forgiveness because we're compassionate community, and it's all about love. So loving ourselves, loving others. And I think there's this huge misconception with forgiveness that, you know, if you're forgiving somebody, you're accepting that behavior, or often we're worried it's going to happen again. But really, forgiveness is taking back our power. And when we forgive, you know, we actually feel better, and it's just releasing that negative energy within us and allowing more joy and the good stuff in our life. So I wanted to bring up forgiveness, and especially with all the unrest that's going on and the oppression and the horrible, you know, racism and everything. It's not easy, and you see some of the most beautiful people that have gone through, you know, the worst things, and they still forgive, which is incredible. And as a compassionate community, I think it's wonderful that we're trying to teach people, you know, we all have different opinions and whatnot, but trying to forgive. And if you're struggling to forgive, there's anger there. So I encourage people to deal with the anger first, try to get that out in some way. And if you're still trying to forgive and you can't, sometimes if we just replace the word forgive with compassion, and again, it's just for our own freedom, and also theirs, but usually it's us that suffer when we don't. So it's actually a form of self-care, so energy hygiene. And so, you know, again, self-care is really, it's love, it's loving ourselves. And this is a different approach, this kind of PowerPoint I put together. But when we practice self-care, we're tuning into what we need. And let's just, I'll get there in a second here, but we're tuning into what we need, and we're loving ourselves. And I think we all, you know, a lot of us feel guilty to love ourselves. And that's a big thing. So just to know that it's okay to feel good. It's okay to have a good life. It's okay. You know, you deserve that. And always, like, I think Kira and Faye did this beautiful video on Heal a Broken Heart with Love. And that's what it is. Like, the more we love ourselves, others, and the more connected we feel. And with illness and anxiety and coping, you know, the more we choose love and choose compassion towards ourselves and others, and give to others, and the more connected we feel, you know, to our inner selves and the universe and each other, and we get that, and the stronger we feel, and the more we're in tune with who we are, which is alignment, and the stronger we get. So you know, again, it's all about, that's why self-care is so important. When we put ourselves first, we're able to, you know, if we pay attention to how we feel, let's just look here. I'll go back. But when we pay attention to how we feel, we're more aware of our emotions. And when we're more aware of our emotions, we're more aware of what we need. And when we're more aware of what we need, when we're practicing self-care, we're in a better position to be able to identify that and provide those needs. If we need rest, we notice that, and we practice boundaries. So we actually say, okay, I need to sleep, and we're able to cope better, and we eat better. You know, we exercise, and we do all that. And the thing is, you can do all that stuff. You can exercise till you're blue in the face. You can do affirmations till you're blue in the face. You can say, okay, you know, there's a reason why some people, like, let's just say, I'm just going to use an example, weight loss. Okay. It's definitely a unique journey for everybody. I'm just using that as an example. But if that person doesn't, this is why willpower alone doesn't work. If we don't, there's two things, belief and capability. If we don't accept ourselves for who we are and believe that we are worthy of, you know, feeling good and looking good and having a good life, then we'll sabotage it with our thoughts. And we need to believe that we're capable of it. And that's where self-love is. So it's all comes down to, I guess I should have probably backed that up. I just put this together quite quickly from different presentations, but it all comes down to caring about ourselves and knowing that we are part of a universe that's full of love. We're worthy of it. And the more we practice taking care of ourselves, you know, the more in tune we are, the stronger we feel, and coping with anxiety or whatnot. Again, you know, self-care, the more we take that breath, again, we're able to, you know, our mindset is probably the most powerful thing. And if we're aware of how we're thinking, we're able to say, okay, does this line up with who I really am? No. Okay, I have to change that thought. But we can get into these cycles, right? It's very easy to go into that, you know, get into that cycle of, okay, I'm no good, or I don't have time, and the stress and everything like that. And then that builds momentum. So self-care helps us break that momentum. And, you know, whatever it is for somebody, meditation or reflection is really great, especially at the beginning of the day, because it's like a reset button. So, you know, you start fresh and you're able to tune into, you know, yourself and hear your inner voice. And this is where we often tap into creativity and imagination, and we're almost building our spiritual muscles before the chaos starts and the news goes on. And so that's one of my favorite things to do in the day. And the more we do that, the more our brain actually, you know, is the stronger we get. And the more connected we feel and the more confident we feel. And so, yeah. So, and, you know, with anxiety is an element of when something's out of our control. And the more we know, I put this around kind of COVID as well. So I wasn't sure exactly how this was going to tie in. So, but the more we know, the more comfortable we feel. And so with COVID, there's so much uncertainty with people's lives now, and you know, their lifestyles are all upside down, people's careers, their livelihood, they're under stress, there's homeschooling, you know, any underlying conditions that people are dealing with now have been escalated, you know, their fear levels are escalated. So the more we can take time for ourselves and you know, just to manage the stress, the better off we are. And the more we can help others and the happier we are. And that builds endorphins. So your body responds to that. So I don't know if you want me to go into this, but again.
We're out of time, Sandra, and your presentation, it's just beautiful, but we are out of time.
No problem.
And it's just, it makes me just sad in some ways to think about all the people that are suffering from being so isolated, you know. It really makes
I do say that, like, you know, if anyone who wants to or is comfortable going a bit overtime, we could still do that and just ask some questions too.
Sure.
I just wanted to give a quick compliment. I liked the presentation was awesome, but because it's so, you know, I feel like we can make ourselves sick just by not being, you know, taking care of ourselves, our sleep, and even watching the news. I mean, it's just a bad vibe throughout, you know, the whole, when I turn on the news, I just get depressed. So I you know, it's like, you know, it's not information. It seems like it's just spreading a feeling. But I like what you had, that last slide. It's okay to say no. Someone bought me a book on Christmas to learn how to say no, because I'm such a pushover, you know, and you know, I don't know how to say no. So that's funny that we need to say no for ourselves sometimes, you know, and if a person cares for us or loves us or is a true friend, they'll understand it's okay to say no sometimes.
Well, I'm glad you all said yes tonight. And Anita had to leave, I guess. I think it's important what, you know, the conversations, and you did a great job, Alex. I mean, we had quite a range of things to talk about, and Danny, did she? I guess she left.
Yeah. I want to see if Marissa had a question.
Marisa, did you have a question?
Hi. No, I don't have any questions.
Okay.
What do you think about self-love, self-help?
That was good to hear and good to know.
And I was thinking about just, why do you think, Sandra, that we feel so guilty at times for loving?
I think it's a couple of factors. I mean, society has conditioned us for years to feel bad, right? When we put ourselves first. It took me 40 some years not to realize that guilt is not from divine, and we're not meant to feel bad. And my brother used to say, Sandra, you feel guilty that you have nothing to feel guilty about. Like, he'd make fun of me. I'd be like, oh, I feel bad. And I think people really have to get that, because in some religions and things, not against any religion, I support, but some religions and different conditions in society make us feel like, it's selfish to put ourselves first. But it's like the airplane analogy. You can't, if you want to help other people, you have to help yourself first. So it's like that oxygen mask, right? So put the oxygen mask on the child first, or on yourself first, sorry, before the child, because you have to breathe first so that you can help that person. And it sounds so simple, but when you're busy, and everybody's lives are busy, and if, and you throw kids in that, and illness and life and, anything, it's hard to make time. So that's where the boundaries and the no, Rick, is important, because if you don't set boundaries and put yourself first and say, okay, I'm putting like a half hour, I don't care what anyone says, or 5 minutes or 2 minutes, you won't do it.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Learn that lesson. Right? You hit the wall, you think, I can do it.
Yeah.
Boom, right? And I'm sure we all are. I think it's just people with big hearts. You just want to do it all. And so people with big hearts suffer the most. They want to do it all, and they don't have time, or they
That's
feel.
quite a statement. I've never heard that statement before, but it sure seems real,
Yeah, you think, like, because it often people with the biggest hearts are like, okay, I'm just going, and they just, and they feel bad to put themselves first, but we burn out. So anyone else? Yeah.
Oh, just real quick, what I've noticed is, like, when you do say no, they're so used to you saying yes that they feel a certain kind of way. It's crazy. You get maybe attitude or something, and I shouldn't even care, or care that they have an attitude, but because I need to look out for myself. But if they do have an attitude, like you said, you know where you stand with that person. If you're always telling them yes, and the minute you tell them no, they have a problem with it. It's pretty sad.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. And you have to get used to that response. And then they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, it's actually, the world isn't going to end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I learned too, it's now I don't think I've been the best with self-care, full disclosure, but one thing I like self-love, right, is that it's not like the egotistical thing to do, appreciating yourself. Maybe you do get a good workout, and then you take a look, and you're like, yeah, look at that. I'm feeling good about myself. It's like, maybe there is a little vanity there at times, and a little bit of it, and don't overdose on vanity. And it could be good for you, because, taking that time to appreciate and love yourself isn't necessarily the egotistical thing to do. Sometimes what could be more egotistical, in a way, weird enough, is just always, as someone who's dealt with ruminating fears a lot, just obsessively thinking about every single thing you do and do wrong, to the point you make every interaction about you and you guys. So like, self-love, self-positivity could sometimes be a more humble way to go about it than just, negativity about yourself, to the point that your maybe negative energy is centered around everything being your fault. You up everything and everything. So I just kind of realized back from that, self-love could be done in a really cool way.
Mm. Mhm. Yeah. Oh, may I say one thing I forgot to say there? Just self-love. I think what we forget, and this was another thing that was a game changer. When we feel guilty, was it you, Kira, that said, why do you think people don't or why we don't do self-love? If we realize that, our creator's inside us, that we're loving our creator when we love ourselves, I think that really helps. Like whether it's God for somebody, like everybody has different faiths. So whether it's God or agape or whatever we call it, the light or source or whatever that higher power, your creator, the universe is. I think if we realize that we're an extension of that energy, and that loving ourselves is actually loving our creator, and we're not meant to feel bad to love ourselves. We're meant to love other people too, but we can't love other people with a full heart if we don't love ourselves first, right? But that change, that I know that sounds, but I was really bad with self-care, really bad. This is why, yeah, I'm sharing it. This is why I'm a little passionate about it. So I've got the t-shirt, really need self-care. With my joke is I have the bedazzles all over it. Yeah, I've got the t-shirt. So, but
Well, thank
anyway.
you. That was great.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's great. And thank you so much. I mean, sometimes we learn most on like struggles, right? But yeah, we're gonna wrap up for tonight. Thank you so much for coming on. It's been wonderful, very informative, and just to thank everyone who was on and who is still here for sharing what they did. I personally found all of this really interesting, from healthcare to what you were saying about the blockchain, Bitcoin, environmental there, like been real. So thank you.
All right.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
That concludes tonight.
To push the thickest of soil and sprout.
Yeah, we know success is very crucial now. Not just for pride, but for survival. Let's maneuver out of these cold streets into the trees where we once found ourselves. Thriving, concrete isolation, binding. It's perfect timing. Centuries grinding towards freedom, bringing new struggles every generation. But engine toward a new life. We live off the earth or with it. Don't ask the colonists, exploring everything around them, including our own souls, owning nothing at all. This is the moment they fall. The vision is raw. You cannot take without giving. It's just the laws of nature. If you don't follow, there's no forgetting. So naturally, our ascension will overthrow their power trip and evolution. The First Nations will bring us back with symbiotic solutions. But first, the retribution to restore the balance between us. They think this house of cards could have crumbled. We don't believe in revolution on the horizon. So here's the season as we embark on this escapade from the stars. Iron sharpens iron.
Ran out of way. Oh yeah, they're out.
It won't be long till we can harvest.
I'm going to the store.
Unless we don't forget to tend the garden. Yeah, help me tend the garden. Help me tend the garden. Oh, yeah, help me tend the garden. Yeah. It could be the soft.
Oh, that looks good.
Help me tend the garden.
As soon as I get offline.
Tend the garden. As we plant more, the pests come with
Where are you gonna put the Nutella?
destroying what they made to protect, like police. If you believe in poison from trusting in them.
Send some of those to Canada, would you?
I've heard some people actually rub the Nutella on themselves. I heard that's
Did you?
We're not getting into that one.
Yeah, exactly.
That's another show.
That's a
I
whole
didn't-
show. Did you ask me
I
what,
didn't-
putting the Nutella.
Yeah.
You crazy guy, you. Well, thanks for joining us, Sandra. You are
Thank you for having me, guys. I hope I didn't talk too much. So that was great.
Oh, great.
And I'm learning about Bitcoin and all this. You guys are teaching me so much. So this is fantastic. Anyway, thank you guys. You have a great night.
You too.
And there you go, Rick.
Huh?
See, Rick, you got to teach people that you were always saying, I'm the dumb one here. You taught us.
Well,
Oh.
only one time out of like how many episodes?
Well, it's been a good week for you. You got to teach us and improve your golf game. So,
That's
and you're still handsome.
Hey, a clock is right. A broke clock is right twice a day. So there you go.
And you like Nutella. So you're
And it's a handsome broke clock. A handsome broke clock.
That's it.
Right?
A good looking broke clock.
A good looking broke clock. See? It's able to hide its brokenness.
Good night, you guys.
Good night.
Thanks,
Good night.
guys.
Good
Have a
night.
great night.
All right.